Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to a Wednesday night live stream. That's right. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy CJ Vogel, and the newest member of the On Texas Football family. The man needs no introduction. Y'all know who he is. Jeff Howe. What's going on, Jeff? How you doing, brother?
It's been a wild ride for me the last couple of weeks, Rod, but I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be at the end of the day. So this is it's been a great day. Looking forward to getting into it, and let's not waste any time, man. We can exchange pleasantries, all that stuff, but let's go ahead and dig right into it. That's what I'm here for. It's all Longhorn football talk, no fluff. So
yeah. You're damn right about that. See, and in honor of my man Jeff Howe being a part of the On Texas Football family, as you guys know, we're excited. As you guys are excited, we got a special happening right now at ontexasfootball.com. Very special offer happening right now. If you use the code HOWE, that's right, HOWE, use that code. You'll get a year subscription for just $39.95. It's a beautiful thing. If you're a ball on the budget, you'll appreciate that. Just use that special code HOWE. I believe you got till midnight. I don't know. I don't know if Matthew sets the rules on this thing. He probably does. He does everything else behind the scenes. So I don't know exactly. Matthew will text me in time and find out exactly how long you got. If you want to ponder and mull it over, ain't no need to do that. All right. Ain't nobody gonna cover Texas football like us because we got the best talent around with guys like CJ Vogel, guys like Jeff Howe, Bobby Burton, Jerry Hamilton, man, Blake Monroe, Coach Bob Shibley. Can't forget about that. Can't forget about Coach Ernie. Can't forget about the crew, man. We're building it. So it's a beautiful thing. Very happy to have Jeff on. As you guys know, you guys drive the show. Y'all know how this works. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time, talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about. We'll try to answer and address as many questions and comments as we can. We'll talk about a new offer the Longhorns have in the 2025 class. We'll also get to some 2026 recruiting news. That's why we got my man CJ Vogel here. We'll also talk about Mel Kiper's latest mock draft. Well, I don't know, latest. I think it's his first mock draft of the offseason. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on in the show. The Pro Football Writers Association had put out their all-rookie team. There are some lifetime Longhorns get some love for the all-rookie team. So we'll dive into that too. And, of course, all things Texas football. Let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into it. CJ, the Longhorn Nation, they were all abuzz earlier today because it was the news dropped the Longhorns weren't done with the best recruiting class in the country. What? Oh, CJ, I think you're muted. Uh-oh.
There we go. Tough start, Jeff. Hey. I'm sorry.
That's
the number one class in the country might not be done yet, Rod. That was a great intro. Texas extended a 2025 linebacker offer last night to AJ Tuateli out of Mojave High School down in Las Vegas, a 6'3", 205-pound linebacker. Recently was committed and signed to Washington State, though when Jack Dickert took the Wake Forest job, he ended up getting his release and started looking elsewhere. USC ended up offering on January the 8th, and now Texas extended the offer last night. The expectation, according to our Jerry Hamilton, is that he will be on campus for an official visit this week. And, of course, that's the expectation. We got to make sure that he gets on the flight, gets to campus for the junior day. But, hey, I'll ask you guys this, because linebacker was kind of one of those sneaky positions to me. Texas wanted 3 in the cycle. They got 2, right? Jonathan Cunningham, a bit longer on, that developmental trend, whereas Elijah Barnes, Bo Barnes, really put together, right? 6'3", 230 at the moment. You got 6 guys on the roster at the linebacker spot. So let's say, hypothetically, you got a Leon Galafau, you got an Anthony Hill, and injury occurs. You'd like to have some more resources in that stockyard right now. I think it's a smart offer. I think that if you don't end up with a linebacker out of the 25 class here with Tuateli, I think that a portal option is necessary as well. But I'd like to get y'all's thoughts as well as what you see on the tape because, look, he flies around. He's got a knack to the football.
Yeah, I'm cool with them offering a high school guy and pursuing a high school guy, CJ, because I feel like the Brad Spence addition out of the portal, he's going to play a different role than David Benda did, but at least from a body on the depth chart in terms of number of snaps, it's one of those weird deals, guys. You look at some of the snap counts. I was looking at him today. I'm like, man, David Benda played over 300 snaps, but then you realize, okay, well, it's a 16-game season, so some of the snap counts are going to be inflated a little bit, but when you break them up by percentages, That's a lot of snaps for your backup linebackers that have to go around. You know, Ty Anthony Smith was almost 100. I think he was 98 snaps. So there are a lot of backup snaps. But I think adding Brad Spence, like I said, even though he'll play a different role, you need a developmental guy, because when you think about the long-term depth, you hope Leonga Lafau comes back for his senior year. I don't know that he's quite on an NFL trajectory yet. You know, Anthony Hill's gone after this year. So before you know it, you're going to have to – Rod, this is something we talked about for years on the Blitz. Talented depth. When you get talented depth, you know, your guys cycle out quick, not because they're busting out or because, you know, they've been recruited over. It's because they're going to the league. That's where Texas is now. You're losing guys early to the league. You know you're going to lose Anthony Hill. So I'm cool with them taking a high school guy, whether it works out or not. I just think the fact that Sark and Johnny Nansen were looking for a guy saying, hey, this guy can play for us. It's found money at this point. Let's see if we can go add him, you know, add to your young depth. I think it's a little bit different because, CJ, you know, in a perfect world, they would have loved that third back to be Riley Pettijohn. He's going to Ohio State. But if you can add this kid, bring him in, hey, maybe he's the kind of kid that ends up playing on teams, which is, you know, most of your linebackers, your quote unquote big skill guys are going to do that anyway. I dig the offer. I love it for those reasons I mentioned, then a lot of other different reasons.
Yeah, I think linebacker is one of the toughest positions to really evaluate these days in modern football at the high school level. It's just really tough. It's just because you don't really know which guys. It's really hard to tell offenses they're going up against, which guys can play the run in a physical way. I don't know if that is something at the high school level that you see that you can evaluate accurately, just because of the spread offenses they're facing. So I'm all about, you know, kind of taking a lot of projects at linebacker, taking chances on guys at linebacker. It actually is one of those positions where, you know, we saw in the Big 12, at least in the Big 12 ecosystem, a lot of teams were essentially positions that you were experimenting with experimental athletes at the linebacker position, guys you were moving running backs in high school or safeties in high school, and we saw that actually materialize a lot. It's a really tough position, I think, to evaluate and recruit these days, especially on defense.
It's a lot of the Overshowns of the world, right?
Yeah.
You know, you just go get the athletic freaks with production and you say, okay, maybe your body will gain 15 or 20 pounds. And that's where I think Texas is at, right? You got your two guys in the class, and evaluating linebackers isn't easy, but when they look like Bo Barnes or they look like Anthony Hill coming out of college or high school, you know, it certainly makes it easier. That's where you got to find your gems, right? The Jalen Ford, I believe, was the lowest recruit in the Texas class, and then turned into the Big 12 defensive runner-up and a pretty solid draft pick for the Saints, right? So you got to find these guys who, I think, when they don't look like the Anthony Hills of the world, you got to find guys that have a lot of production. And that's one of the things that Tuatele certainly has in his repertoire. When you watch the huddle here, I guess it's quick cut, but also brand new to that. So interesting, but no, you got to find the production. The guys that always have their hat around the ball at linebacker. And that's what you do when you can just build their bodies up when they get to college. Ty Anthony Smith.
Yep. The instincts, looking for the instincts, because linebacker, it's a lot of it is just a nose for the football. Yeah. All right, we'll get back to some recruiting discussion as well, because I know there's a lot of talk about what's happening in that 2026 class. But yeah, Longhorn's not done with the #1 recruiting class in the country, so that's good news. Let's get to some super chats, and then we'll get to some questions as well. I got a couple other topics I want to bring up with the guys, but how about this one from Derek? Thank you for the super chat, Derek. We really appreciate it. Very kind of you. I'm so pumped for Jeff joining the On Texas Football crew. I always love listening to the Blitz, the best portal pickup. Hook 'em. We appreciate that, Derek. Yeah. We know everybody. The Blitz, a lot of talk about it. We'll discuss it too. Remember, there are 3 members of the Blitz. Got 2 on board now. So, and my man Matt Butler, who does great work in the fantasy realm. We might have to discuss getting back to Blitz. So
of all the questions I've got today, Rod, of everything I've been asked, it's like, hey, glad you're going to OTF. When's the Blitz coming back? I'm like, let me get settled in. You know,
exactly.
Let me find out where the bathroom is, everything else. So, and then we'll get the Blitz hopefully going at some point. So
it happened so fast, guys. We haven't even discussed it. Like everything's happened so quick that we haven't had a chance to discuss it, but it will be discussed. And I think a lot of arrows are pointing in the right direction for that. So thank you guys for that. I'm in CB here. CB, appreciate CB. all the time. The unofficial producer of every Longhorn related show out there says, "Welcome, Jeff. Glad you and Rod are reunited, and it feels so damn good." CB, appreciate that. Triplet Joseph 44. Thank you for the super chat. Do the intro, Jeff. Do the intro. Let's effing go. Yeah, the intro for the Blitz. He's famous for the intro for the Blitz. So maybe we'll do that a little bit later on. I don't know if Jeff wants to do it now. I want to put Jeff on the spot. That's on Jeff if we're supposed to do the intro.
Hey, we'll save it. I want to wait for a special time. If we do bring the Blitz, well, I'll tell you what, once we get decided, once the future of the Blitz is decided, then we will determine where it goes. I'll put it that way.
There you go. And thank you, Triplet Joseph. We appreciate that. Appreciate all the love there. Nomad 0792. Welcome aboard, Jeff. One very important question for you. Mayo or no mayo on your corn dog? That is disgusting to have mayo on it. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
So here's the deal. Somebody said, "Hey, Jeff, you need to do the mayo corn dog thing." And I said, "I'll do it when Rod does it," knowing darn well that Rod Babers will not ever do that as long as he roams this mortal earth. Here, I'm not a big corn dog person. Here's my corn dog consumption for the year. Got to be at the state fair after Texas OU. I go post-game corn dog, not pre-game. And it's a Fletcher's dog with mustard. That's pretty much the starting and ending of my corn dog connoisseurship of the year.
Does it matter if they win or not? If you have the corn dog, you'll get it win or lose?
Rod, my first corn dog was after, what was the score? It was 63-21 in 2012. So, yeah. If I can have one after then, it's either drowning your sorrows or celebratory.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good point. Yeah.
The victory corn dog tastes much better, though. I'll say that.
Oh, it tastes way. A victory corn dog is the way. I remember Sark coming in with that victory corn dog. Remember, it just looked like it was tasting good. I was like, was that the first corn dog Sark had ever had in his life?
Yeah.
Right? That was his first corn dog. It's like, what's
first state fair dog, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like, man, I guess West Coast, they don't do the corn dogs like that on the West.
The best post OU victory meal I've seen, though, is after 49-0, we're sitting on the concourse doing media, which really aggravated me because Texas is supposed to have the media room, but Venables was like an hour late getting to the press conference. CJ, I don't know if you were around for that or not, but Moro Ojomo had time to go down and get him a turkey leg and then came and did his media. Like he's trying to hide the turkey. Like, we can see it. Like, you don't have to hide the turkey leg. Just eat the turkey leg while you're doing media. It's fine. We don't care.
I can smell it. Now I smell that turkey leg. What are you talking about? Turkey legs also a go-to at the state fair, man. Love me some turkey legs. JJ, thank you, JJ, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Welcome, Jeff. This is bourbon tasted from the board, ducking out of work to watch live from Melbourne, Australia.
Man,
back together. Hook 'em, JJ. Well done. We appreciate that, brother. That's love right there. Absolutely. That's love. See, that's why it's a family thing. Thank you, JJ. Very kind of you. We're all really excited. My man, how about this one? David Keith Williams. He said the only thing bad about Jeff Howe joining On Texas Football is that the On Texas Football bench is so deep now. There's absolutely no way Bobby Burton will invite me on the show now. David Keith Williams, you're one of our favorites, man. You know we got love for you.
Keep those chats coming, David Keith Williams.
Yeah,
that's what we need. Those.
Yeah, we need those. Yeah, we need the good questions because David Keith Williams got good questions. So
yeah, he does,
those, man. Keep us in some deep conversations here on the show. All right, let's get to a couple of the topics. You guys throw out your questions. We'll try to address as many of the questions as we can. Before we continue, let me thank one of our sponsors. As a matter of fact, perfect time for to thank our sponsor, one of my favorite people in the world, and my former teammate Brett Robin, who is now an orthopedic specialist. That's right. I know, man. Jeff Howe has some fun with this. Special thanks to Brett Robin at the Orthopedic Institute for sponsoring On Texas Football and sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. Dr. Robin, that's right, folks. Dr. Robin, a former Longhorn running back and my former teammate. He knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacements. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients every day and includes right now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic specialist, give Dr. Robin a call today at 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000. And get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. And I am not joking. I am actually going to hit up Dr. Robin because I got some shoulder issues. I've been carrying around baby girl now, and the shoulders coming. My shoulder issues are coming back, Jeff. All those shoulder surgeries are coming back to haunt me, man. So I need to see my man, Dr. Robin, about that, and you may need to see him as well. So thank you, Dr. Robin, for sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. All right, I want to ask you guys about this Mel Kiper mock draft that recently came out. Did you guys get a chance to? I don't know if you guys got a chance to see the Mel Kiper mock draft, first one of the offseason, but he came out with his mock draft, and the first Longhorn that he's got coming off the board, of course, is Kelvin Banks. He's got Kelvin Banks going in number 11, I believe, overall, in his latest mock draft. And I was thinking about this, and I don't know if Matt has it, but Matt, could you pull up the Jim Nagy tweet that I threw out there? And we'll get back to the Mel Kiper mock draft in a second, because I understand that Texas could have 12 players or so drafted in this draft. But this tweet stood out to me, and I thought it was mind-blowing. I never really thought about it, but Jim Nagy, who does who is the executive with the Senior Bowl, he tweeted this out that this is the 6th straight year where schools with the most NFL draft picks won the FBS title. He claims that Ohio State will have the most draft picks. That hadn't happened yet, but it was Michigan last year, Georgia 2 years in a row in 23 and 22. They had 10 and 15 in 23 and 22. Michigan had 13 in 2024. Alabama had 10 in 2021, and then LSU had 14 in 2020. That is not a coincidence, gentlemen.
No.
That is straight up the new era of college football.
Yeah.
We're done. I mean, you're kind of done with the Cinderella era of college football. You just need more talent to win. We're getting closer and closer to an arms race.
It's already there. I mean, look, we talk about how impressive it was for Jahdae Barron to switch to 7, basically call his shot and go win the Thorpe. Look, there were 4 or 5 Ohio State players from a year ago that called their shot and said, hey, we're returning to school. We could go to the draft this year, but we want to come back. We want to beat Michigan. They didn't do that, but we want to go build for a national championship because we believe that this roster has enough talent. And they certainly did, right? JTT was a guy that had the opportunity to go pro last year. Lathan Ransom, another one whose big decision was to return to school. Then you go out there and you add a Caleb Downs from the portal. Look, Texas is, I know that they're celebrating perhaps another double-digit draft, send-off again this year. Texas is a few pieces from that. And we talked about it this morning on State of the Program with Bobby and Jerry, is when you start comparing where Texas was to where Ohio State was, look, they didn't have 4 or 5-star wide receivers, right? They're getting close now. When you start looking at 25, you got Khalil Lockett, Jamie French come in to top in with Ryan Wingo. But that NFL level talent is what separates you, especially when you get deeper into the playoffs. And Texas has a lot, but for the 2nd straight year, just a little bit shy of being that top overall talent team. And Ohio State certainly showed that off over their run, and 4 really impressive wins in which they looked like the best team in college football without any question.
There's a couple of things at play here. I think one, you start looking at that 2020 Bama team, really, because 2019 LSU, as great as that team was, and to me, it's the greatest college offense I've ever seen. As good as 05 Texas was, and we've had some great ones, that it was like the stars aligning for LSU in 2019. But that 2020 Bama team, if you guys remember, Najee Harris and Devontae Smith and Alex Leatherwood, there was a group of guys that were freshmen, pretty much everybody except Tua that was a freshman on that 2017 national championship team. All those guys decided to come back, CJ, for the reason you just mentioned with Ohio State. That Bama team was like, hey, we've got unfinished business. We want to end our career like we began it, winning a national championship. And again, you've got an offense that took a backseat to nobody with Mac Jones and Devontae Smith was your Heisman winner. After that, not only your team's doing that a little bit more, but let's not forget, too, because of the portal, college football the last few years has been an older sport. So guys are getting more time to develop, not just those seniors, having a one-off and going somewhere, but, your guys are able to marinate a little bit more, is what I'm saying, before they're thrust into roles. And the other thing, too, and I may do this breakdown on the site here in a week or so, like next week, because this is something that's got my wheels turning now. How I break it down, Rod, this is something we've always talked about. I look at basically, I think if you're a top 100 pick, if you go in the first 100 picks, you're an elite player, right? Like it could be positional slides or needs or whatever. I think if you're in the top 100, you're a premium player. And then within those top 100, how many premium positions does your school produce, right? So with Texas, I think that's the big difference with a team like Texas now is, and that's no disrespect to Bijan or some of those other guys, like, or DeMarvion Overshown, like running backs and linebackers are important, but now we're getting into offensive tackles, maybe quarterbacks, corners, wide receivers, like the premium positions that command top dollar in the NFL. Those are the kind of positions that if it's a Sunday talent game in college, that's the kind of talent you need to produce to win a national championship. And that's going to go on to be in those top 100 picks, those premium round selections. So I think there's a lot of that stuff at play. But at the end of the day, I just go back to premium picks at premium positions, and Texas is getting there.
Yep. And the premium positions, for those who are wondering what it is, it's just the highest paid positions in the NFL.
Yeah.
Quarterback, wide receiver, left tackle period, pretty much now.
Mm-hmm.
Edge rusher, cornerback now in that premium position conversation. Now D tackle, I think actually has crept into that conversation too. Those kind of D tackles that can play every down, run downs and early downs, and rush the passer as an elite level. Those guys are also in that conversation. But yeah, no, you're right about that. That's what Sark has emphasized is the premium positions. But that is and this is why I'll ask you this: do we think if this trend holds here, right? And it seems like it will, because Ohio State, it seems like they're going to have a ton of guys drafted, and we'll have as many, if not more, than anybody else in college football. So if this trend holds, we don't see Texas having the most draft picks in the NFL draft next year, do we? Because they're a young team,
right?
They're going to be a young
that's
team.
The hurdle, yeah.
So if this trend holds, you can be a good team, but maybe not a team that's going to win it all. And maybe the year after that is the year, because you'll have more of your guys that'll be draft eligible guys, and then you'll be able to. Obviously, if this trend holds, you'll be able to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, in that regard. And that'll also kind of align with what's happened recently with the coaches who are winning it all. Took Ryan Day a little while. Took Kirby Smart, about 6 years, both of them, to get it.
Harbaugh, yeah.
Took Harbaugh forever. Mm-hmm. Harbaugh didn't start winning the conference until his 7th year. Won it in his 9th year. Thank God for Connor Stallions. The difference is LSU is kind of the exception to the rule, right? That's Joe Burrow, Ed Orgeron. They kind of that just was kind of an outlier, if you will. And then Bama, of course, that's the GOAT. I'm just talking about the last few. If that holds, then Sark will kind of be on track. Maybe not next year, but the year after. Does that theory make sense, or we're still drinking Kool-Aid that they're gonna win it all next year with Arch as a young?
He's the solution.
I'm just saying.
Your theory makes sense. The theory makes sense, but just like I said, college football has been an older game the last few years. You're done pretty much, with an exception here or there. You pretty much gotten a cycle through the guys that had COVID eligibility, right?
Yeah.
Now everybody's back on a 4-year track now, unless you're a JUCO player and you want to thank Diego Pavia for this injunction or whatever. Then maybe you got a couple more years, but. I do wonder if we start to see that trend. I wonder if maybe this is just a blip on the radar, and maybe there's a new trend that starts in 2025. I don't know. I think there's something to your theory, but I think we also could be getting ready to see a different trend emerge too.
And that also builds to the current roster that Texas is constructing too. They're not going to be the oldest team. They're not going to be the most draft eligible team, especially when you start looking at the Colin Simmons, the Ryan Wingos, right? That 2024 class, or that's going to be what's interesting to me, is because we expect All-American level play from Colin Simmons. We saw it this year. He was, the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year. Do these guys develop to a level where that conversation of stars mattering is trumped by your All-Americans matter, right? Because Colin Simmons, premium position. Do you have a replacement for All-American Jahdae Barron? Do you have a replacement for an All-American Calvin Banks? Texas will have to find that, right? We believe Trevor Goosby is going to be a really good, replacement option. But hey, that's a tough thing to replace as a guy that went up against 11 first-round picks over 3 years and was pretty darn good from the start.
Yeah.
So those premium positions, Texas is stacking talent, but that talent's going to have to play very early. So that's going to be the next hurdle, is to get the most out of your youth while still getting them on the field enough to learn, develop, and be ready for whenever it's time for the draft to start calling their name.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think you have made a good point, Jeff, about now the COVID years are up. There could be a shift happening too, because those COVID years messed up everything. Even guys in the NFL are still talking about what it did to the development of young players going into the NFL. COVID, it's just the COVID will affect everybody for a long time. The COVID babies, the COVID kids, whatever. It's going to affect every industry too, and it's affecting football. And I think now as you're done with that, you could see maybe a changing landscape there. All right, good stuff, guys. Getting back to the Mel Kiper draft, though, before we totally move on here. He's only got one Longhorn in the first round. That's Kelvin Banks, the 11th overall. That's it. Yeah.
I don't hate it. I will say, James kind of called this. He tweeted at me earlier in the week saying he's got Kelvin Banks falling to 11 because I believe he's a Niners fan. I said that can't happen because I'm a Cowboys fan. So that cannot happen, to get CMC and that offense more weapons, a Trent Williams replacement down the road. Mm-hmm. I'm still sitting by the mindset. I'd be surprised if Kelvin Banks fell out of the top 10, just in the sense that tackle, premium position, a guy that's been an All-American, a guy that's been a 3-year starter, as I mentioned. He's got all sorts of hardware that he brought in from this past year. I'd be a bit surprised, but I wouldn't. I've kind of talked myself into this. I don't think I would be surprised if he was the only first-round Longhorn in this year's draft. And that I don't think I was sitting at, or at least ready to share midway through the playoff, midway through the season. I've kind of come to terms with, I think that's my expectation now, however.
The combine is going to be big for 3 guys. I think it's going to be big for Isaiah Bond because he could go just blow up the combine with how he runs and tests. I think it's going to be big for Cam Williams because he has a chance to move himself up draft boards. There's also a chance he could move down draft boards depending on what his combine looks like. And then I think Jahdae Barron, I think a lot of people want to see, hey, what is the height? What is the arm length? Because at the end of the day, man, if this league is truly a league now about position flex and positionless players, if your secondary was putrid this year, just draft Jahdae Barron and figure out where to put him later. Like, he can play any position on the back end. You want him to play corner, safety, field boundary, nickel, dime, whatever. He can come in and play it for you. So I think the combine is huge for those 3 guys. With Kelvin Banks, this is just my opinion. I think teams are going to overthink it. I think he's going to go to the combine and he's going to measure like 6'3" and change, maybe 6'4". Be like, oh man, he's not a left tackle. Well, guess what? The arm length checks out. And one thing that scouts routinely do it, and they'll do it to the end of time, Rod. And I don't know why, with as much resources and everything, they'll overthink it. Now look at the tape. Just go look at the tape. Go watch go watch this guy's resume over 3 years. What did you say, CJ? 11 first-round picks he played against in 3 years? Think about his freshman year might be the best freshman offensive line season I've ever seen. When you think about the guys he went up against, game 2, you're not playing against Louisiana Tech. You're going against Will Anderson, a left tackle, and he's an edge rusher. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Tyree Wilson, Will McDonald. Like you faced 4 first-rounders as a freshman, and not only did you hold your own, you dominated. So I just feel like teams are going to overthink it with Kelvin, and somebody's going to get a guy that's going to play, whether he starts at guard and kicks back out to tackle, whatever it is. Somebody's going to get a guy kind of like Justin Blaylock that ends up playing double-digit years in the NFL and is really good for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, there are some similarities from last year's draft invitees from Texas to this year, right? In terms of whose stock could rise, who could fall, right? In terms of Cam Williams, I think weight might be a big one. What's he at? How can he move? That was Tavondre Sweat to a T last year, right? I don't think they actually released, what was it, 373 is what he came in at after claiming 350 or 345 at Texas. So we'll see, right? Cam Williams was listed at 335 this year. And I think everybody who's seen him in person or up and close and would say, 335, I'd like to hop on that scale, right? So I do think that's a similarity. I think that Jaden Blue will have a similar combine as well, in the sense that how fast can you go, right? Because Jahmyr Gibbs has kind of been that lofty comparison due to frame, due to skill set, due to speed. But that tape doesn't necessarily back up. Will the number override that? It certainly did for an Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, though I think they expected more of that success. Everybody in the world, it felt like, predicted 4.2s for each of them except for me. So, again, I already threw away any type of 40-yard dash predictions this year. That's not happening on my end after last year.
Hey, but you did hit that Jaden Greathouse, though.
I did.
Yeah. That was a nice one, though. That was a nice one. So I'll give you props on that.
Hey, Rod, where are you on Matthew Golden? Because I think it's just such a weird year at receiver because you've got McMillan and Burden. Like, you feel those two guys are first rounders. Who's wide receiver 3, and is wide receiver 3 good enough to be in the first round? I feel like both those Texas guys are in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I saw the tweet. I believe it was, oh man, was it Brugler or Jeremiah?
DJ, I think it was Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, I believe, right? Who said when he watched the film that he ended up with Matthew Golden as his top receiver. He said he could be the top receiver coming out of the class. And I can relate to that because I literally remember on this channel. Thank you very much, Matthew. That's why Matthew's the best in the business. I remember on this channel saying, yeah, I think there's some things that his game lacks. Like during the season, like, I don't know if he can make, go up over over the top of the defender and make a play. I don't know if he can be a true deep threat. I don't know if he's got that kind of elite speed to separate downfield. I remember at one point saying, I wonder if he can make contested catches with his size. And literally, as the season went on and he became the number 1 wide receiver, he did all those things. Like he would almost kind of check the box of any doubt I had in his skill set. So I got to the point where I don't know if he has any flaws really in his skill set. I'm trying to think, like, what's the big flaw? That's what's the flaw in his skill set other than his kind of his size. And I don't think he has elite speed, but then I kept saying that, and then he would get behind guys. And I see him down the field catching deep balls. I'm like, oh, I didn't really think he had elite speed, but he is behind these defenders, and I don't really get that. I just think he has got a really nice overall, well-rounded skill set. I don't know if he needs to be the top receiver taken off the board, but I know an NFL receiver when I see one. And how as you guys know, this is the same thing we're talking about Jahdae Barron. Guys, it ain't about whether you can play. The draft ain't got nothing to do with whether you can play in the league or not. It don't. I know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't. The draft is about your raw potential and upside.
Mm-hmm.
That's why everybody knew T'Vondre Sweat was an NFL player. But what was the draft about? Well, he might be too big. Biggest defensive lineman in the league. He might be too big. Too big. Did you watch it? Did you watch the film? You think he's too big? You don't watch the way he moves? You don't think he moves very well? And then now we'll talk about it. He's on the all-rookie team. Yeah. And we're like, yeah. Did you watch the film? He can play. But the draft is not about that, right? The draft is about a lot of different things, a lot of different data points, and it's about upside. And they're drafting upside, which is why Jahdae Barron may not be drafted in the first round. Because if he goes out there and runs a high 4.4, they'll go, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's worth drafting in the first round because they want him to run a low 4.4. Or if he runs a 4.5 or something like that. I don't know how fast he's going to run. That's why I don't know how high he's going to be drafted. He runs fast, he'll be drafted in the first round. He doesn't run fast, he won't be drafted in the first round.
I think I'm going to go back to Rod, the draft after year. So this would have been the 2004 draft. And I remember a lot of teams overthought it with one of your teammates. You said he's one of the best you've ever played with. A lot of teams overthought it with Nathan Vasher.
Oh, yes.
I think he was either hurt at the combine or didn't run the 40. I don't remember what the deal was, but D'Angelo Hall and some other guys just, tore up the combine with the 40. Nathan Vasher ends up going 3rd or 4th round. Well, guess what? The Chicago Bears got them a bargain, got them an all-pro in the 4th round because just like I talked about with Kelvin Banks, just like you said, what do scouts constantly forget to do? Go check the tape. Go watch the tape. And when you watch Nathan Vasher's tape at Texas, whether he's a corner, special teams, safety, whatever, the guy's the best playmaker on the field. And with Matthew Golden, I think that's another think about this. This got Keelan Robinson drafted last year with the kickoff rules changing. Teams are looking for a kickoff guy. So if I can save a roster spot by drafting Matthew Golden to be my wide receiver 2, and he's my kick return guy, that frees me up to take that linebacker or that safety or whatever when you talk about roster management, I may be overthinking it there, but
No,
I mean,
I
that's one of those. It's position flex. It's that versatility teams are looking for.
Which is why Jahdae Barron should be drafted higher.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you guys know I've been saying for a while, the future of football is positionless football, right? Multiplicity, or more and more guys you can move around the chessboard. That should add value, not only for roster management reasons like you're talking about, but just to offer solutions to problems you're going to be presented with on the field. So good conversation. Let me bring up one more thing before we move on here and I'll answer some of the questions. I know we got some super chats out there as well. The mock draft from Mel Kiper and just kind of going through it. I think it's possible, and Jerry Hamilton brought this up as well, but looking at Mel Kiper's mock draft, it really puts it into perspective for you. Go look at all the great defensive players Texas played. How many these guys are going to be mocked in the first round by Mel Kiper? I'll just go through the guys here. He's got Mason Graham going number 5 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, D tackle from Michigan. He's got also that played Texas, Mykel Williams, the outside linebacker. Talk about position flex. It's a guy you can move around. Mykel Williams, the outside linebacker from Georgia. He's also got Jalen Walker from Georgia going in the first round. Yep, Georgia got some dogs. He's got Will Johnson, corner from Michigan, also going in the first round here. He's got Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia, going in the first round. He's got A&M Shamar Stewart going in the first round. He's got who else did Texas play on here? Also defensive guys he's played. He's got A&M's Nick Skirton on here as well. Another player. He's got Maxwell Hairston, the corner from Kentucky.
Ooh.
Another defensive player Texas play. And he's got Kenneth Grant going 32nd. So was that 8 guys? 8. He's got 8. Texas played 8 first-round defenders.
A quarter of the first round?
Yeah, and I bet like Deion Walker's going to end up like a second-round guy. I bet if you look at second-round guy, you talk about the top 100 players, Jeff. I bet if you look at the top 100 players that are going to be drafted, that Texas played on defense, I bet that number will be pretty high. Does that mean we were too tough on the Texas offense this year, considering the amount of great defensive players? And I don't even see any Ohio State defenders. Ohio State defenders on there? I don't think I saw any. No, Ohio State offensive players, but no.
Mecca Buka was in there, but I didn't see
no defensive players. So that'll be in the second and third round guys too, right there. They'll have a couple. Easy.
I don't think we were too hard on the Texas offense, because I think back to the Michigan game, and as good as Quinn was, I don't think we give Sark enough credit for his plan, because they hit the edges, they hit the perimeter. Basically, like Ryan Day should have watched the Texas film and basically copied it for his game plan against Michigan. Otherwise, Ohio State would have never been in that position. They hit the perimeter, basically kind of wore Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant down. And then when those guys needed to sub out, that's when they started running the ball between the tackles. So I thought Sark called a brilliant game against Michigan. And no, the red zone offense, right? We've studied the numbers. It's gotten worse every year Sark's been here statistically. Touchdown rate this year was up from last year, but it's still not great. I mean, they were 120th in the country in red zone touchdown rate in 2023. It's hard to be worse than that. So it was going to improve naturally. But no, I don't think we were too hard on the Texas offense. I think the criticism was warranted.
I absolutely agree. And it's because of the inconsistency, right? You're playing good talent, but you're a veteran bunch, right? I went through it today in terms of what that group actually looked like coming into the season. And well, when you return for 4 out of 5 guys and, they collectively have close to 4,000 snaps, I mean, you're expected to move bodies around that are other good, talented football players. Now, to your point about Michigan, Jeff, I mean, Texas ran for 143 in that game, right? 55 of that came on a Ryan Wingo jet reverse or whatever. And so take that out if you want, but that's still 100 yards versus what we saw in the 3 losses where Texas combined for about 40 yards in Georgia, part 2 in Ohio State, right? Throw Arizona State into that mix. I didn't hear any Arizona State defensive players in that conversation about first or second round talent. And yet they couldn't get anything going on that run game. So it was the day-to-day, the week-to-week inconsistency. The way that they just threw Clemson into the buses right? That was impressive, right? You run for 290 in that game. You did the same thing in College Station where you just basically had Trey Wisner running scot-free wherever he wanted for 5, 6, 8 yards at a given time. But yet you couldn't do that the next week against what is expected to be a hodgepodge group of inferior non-SEC talent. So it was all inconsistent to me in the sense that the frustration just mounted and mounted. Would you get an offense that could get you a 3rd and 1? By the end of the year, the answer was clearly no. So I think that's where the frustration stemmed from. And no, I think that it was warranted throughout.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at that Michigan defense. I mean, that Michigan defense was loaded and had an NFL defensive coordinator and Wink Martindale too. And you're right, man. Sark took him to school. It was a master class. And that, this is why, I think Sark is an awesome coach, but I also think he's still evolving, right? He's still growing as a coach. When Sark's got extra time to prepare for those big time opponents, you see the best of Texas and Sark, because that is months of preparation. And I think you kind of saw Dillingham was a good young coach with extra time to prepare for Texas and what they did against Texas defensively, right? And offensively too. A really good coach, man. If you get extra time to prepare, I mean, go look at Andy Reid's record when there's extra time to prepare. You get extra time, a good coach, they're going to make the most of it. And I think Sark does that in the offseason with these, because he knows he's got these big juggernauts in the offseason. And in the non-conference, and they're not necessarily, SEC opponents, but he knows what they mean on a big stage for the reputation of Texas. And I think that's why, man, you see some of that Alabama games, Michigan games, there's no doubt he's going to be ready for Ohio State too. But the football season, as it gets longer, is a week-to-week grind. And you don't have months to prepare for opponents. And I think as the timetable shrinks for Sark at times, you don't get to see, that kind of elite creativity and innovation that you see with the offense. Because those guys are practicing all those plays too for months as well, guys. Yeah. Putting in the game plan. We know now they were putting in the Alabama game plan for months.
Yeah, good point.
And that's when Sark's at his best, just like the opening script, preparation, creativity, innovation. And then when you get to the third quarter and then you get to the fourth quarter, you're often wondering, why is there a disconnect? I want more of the innovation and creativity. I think that's one of the last hurdles for Sark. Is to master the week-to-week grind and still be able to keep that schematic advantage or have that schematic advantage. And then also be able to do that throughout a game and throughout a season, not just at the beginning when you've had extra time to prepare for an opponent, the script, if you will.
Yeah. I think too, Rod, I think the need to the running game, CJ, you just broke it down. So I don't need to restate the numbers, but just the feast or famine nature of it. You need to find out, especially with a young offensive line that's going to need help. I don't say young, it's an inexperienced offensive line. You need to figure out in spring, okay, what's our bread and butter going to be in the run game? What are going to be the staples of our run game? Hey, it may not be outside zone. I know Sark says outside zone kind of gets their offense going. It may not be that. It may be more duo. It may be more gap. It may be more inside zone. I don't know, but you don't have the luxury with the experience you had, and Jake Majors being the quarterback of that offensive line, having played so much football, could ID everything was like clockwork. I think the quicker he and Kyle Flood identify those couple staple run game concepts, I think that'll give you a chance to be more consistent running the football.
Yep.
If there's one concern I can quickly throw in is how much of a SEC Saturday look will Texas be giving itself in spring football? That's a quick concern because, again, you got Travis Shaw, you got Cole Brevard, and then you got Alex January, who's expected to make that leap, and a bunch of guys who've never touched the field before. I think that was, one of those things that I thought going into last spring was you better hear about that Texas offensive line dominating the run game in spring camp, right? Scrimmages, the spring game, you want to see vast holes because they don't have to go up against Byron Murphy. Even Trill Carter, right? Tavondre Sweat, the big rock is gone. We turned out that Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton were pretty darn good as well. But right now, I'm kind of looking at it thinking, will you get a good two deep look from that defensive line to give you a grasp on what your strengths and weaknesses are in the run game?
No, that's fair. That's a good point. All right, let's thank Flat Creek before we move on here. Our good friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right, folks. Flat Creek Estate Winery. It's just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local spec, so please give it a try. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. Really appreciate them for sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. I'm a big fan, actually, of Flat Creek Estate Winery. My wife loves Super Texan, by the way, and her mom does, actually. Last time she was in town, we got a chance to enjoy some Flat Creek Estate wine, and they also have it at your local Central Market because we saw it there doing some grocery shopping. So the good word is getting out about Flat Creek Estate Winery, and really appreciate them for being a part of the On Texas football family. That's flatcreekestate.com. All right, before we get to another topic here, let's hear some questions, super chats and all. Manscapes underscore jerky fun says the How back home. Yes. Appreciate that. Jeff Howe back with the family. We appreciate him. Also appreciate the super chat. Shannon says, Jeff, welcome on Texas football, killing it. Thank you very much, Shannon. We appreciate the super chat there as well. Cinco de Mayor says, Jeff, welcome. You need to mix in your famous Robbie intro when you're on the live streams. Classic. Hey, all right. So we've gotten a couple of requests for the intro. Maybe we'll get that back out there at one point. We'll let Jeff get settled down first a little bit before we dive into some of that stuff. All right, let's get to some questions here. James says, CJ. It's actually no, it's another one here. Carlos. He wants to know from you, Jeff. Are you still collecting cards? If so, what have you been purchasing lately?
Yeah,
you want to dig into the card collecting thing.
Bear go number 2 in the woods. Yeah, absolutely. I got a little bit of everything. Speaking of lifetime Longhorns, though, I got a Quentin Jam or Topps Chrome refractor just sitting on my desk right now. So Rod, former teammates right there, Rod B.
Nice. I like that. That's legit. See, Jeff's got, trust me, man, he's a man of many talents. He's a Renaissance man. So we appreciate him. I'm sure he's gonna be breaking out. He used to open. I remember listening to you on air, and you would open card packs live on air. It was like one of his bits. It was a great bit too, man. It was a great bit. I was like, what do you got in the back? But it's still like this crazy how the child comes out in you when somebody's opening a pack of cards. You're like, what you got up in there? I got it now.
Yeah, peeking over.
Yeah, right. I think the best ones I pulled on the air. I pulled a Jason Tatum auto out of Prison Basketball, and then I actually still got it's a dual jersey patch card, a Luka card sitting over here on my shelf.
Oh, that's legit right there. Yeah. Oh, I think CJ's a Mavs fan. You a Mavs fan, CJ?
Of course.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to
mistake.
A man says, can we get that Notre Dame corner originally from Round Rock? You're talking about Leonard Moore. Let me just say this. I was watching Leonard Moore when he was in high school. I was a huge fan of, I said he was the best cover corner that I had seen in Central Texas in that cycle. I was like, there are some, just because somebody has a lot of talent, it doesn't mean you're always going to be the right fit. And I think that was about compatibility and fit. Not there's anything wrong, because he's a great young man. Yeah. And it's not always a fit with him. It may be fit with others involved with them or in their, in their circle, all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't make them bad people. Just like I said, just mean you're not a right fit and it's not going to be compatible. Why try to force something like that? But no doubt, I'm with you. I said it when I saw him on film. I was like, oh, and he played in high school. He was playing bump and run man, just like he's playing now. Like straight up bump and run man. They would just leave him out there on an island, and he was out there making plays. He was legit. He was a real deal. So that's the skinny on it. You guys want to throw out there anything about Leonard Moore?
Really darn good, lengthy, and can move.
Yeah.
That's the second Round Rock guy that I'm like, man, I wish Texas would have got him. James Lynch was the other one. It's been several years now, but had a hell of a career at Baylor, and Texas just for whatever reason just never really pushed all that hard.
Yep. Speaking of corners, how about this one from Football Junkie? Thank you, Football Junkie, for the super chat. It says, I believe Manny Muhammad will be a first-round pick in 2026 draft. Would love to hear Jeff's thoughts. Okay, Jeff, your thoughts about Manny? We'll talk corner. I'll give you my thoughts about Manny, but Jeff, what are your thoughts about Manny Muhammad? Hopefully one day we can call him Money Muhammad. That's natural when you start being a great cover course. Somebody's gonna say money. I mean, money.
Exactly. Can he be a first rounder? Yeah. I hope he learned a couple things this year. One, life as a corner in the SEC can be tough, especially you got to a point in the year where teams started throwing at him because they just weren't going to throw at Jahdae Barron anymore. If they were smart, they weren't going to throw at him. So there's that. I think the other thing too is, if anybody, if you like, whether you like offensive line play or not, I would encourage you to go to the YouTube page, preferably whenever this live stream is over, and go back to Coffee and Football this morning and listen to Tony Hills talk about offensive line play. But it applies when the competition is when it's like talent, or maybe that guy's suddenly a little bit better than you. Attention to detail and technique become paramount. Very few guys can get by all the way to the NFL on just being a better athlete than people. Most guys at some point, the little things have to kick in. The technique has to kick in, attention to detail. And I think Manny, that's one thing. It was a hard lesson for him to learn, but I think he really learned that this year. Look, this is the same guy that we saw was clearly the best corner go back to the 2023 season. He was the best corner on the roster. He played the best. Now, was he the best this last year? No, because Jahdae Barron was, but I just hope he takes those lessons, learns from them, and we see a better product on the field in 2025.
Hey, Jeff,
I have no doubt he'll get there.
Can I get a super chat in as well real quick in terms of corners? You know, Rod and I have kind of floated the conversation out of, could you see a Jalen Gilbo maybe take the same route as Jahdae Barron out wide to corner to get you another experienced body out there? Do you see that as a possibility, just in the sense that, look, you're going to find a guy outside corner opposite of Manny Muhammad. If it's Kobe Black, you know, he's got 100 snaps. If it's Santana Wilson, he's got 0, right? There's a lot of inexperience at a pretty important spot. Would you ever really, even just think of that idea?
Oh, yeah, I'd think about it. The thing is, CJ, who do you trust to then slide inside and be your nickel?
And that's the question.
Is JJR ready for that? Could Warren Roberson slide inside? I don't know. That's the kind of the gift and the curse with a really good nickel. And thankfully, Gilbo's presence I said going into all year, so the X factor on defense is Jalen Gilbo. If it allows you to use Jahdae Barron however you want to use him instead of how you have to use him, it could make a big difference in the secondary. And it did. And I'm not like Nostradamus or anything. That wasn't like some hardcore prediction, but it's just Gilbo being the X factor. Who's the X factor this year that can allow you to do that? I don't know, because again, CJ, going back to something you said earlier, we're talking about guys that are clearly talented. We just haven't seen it. We haven't seen a ton of reps from some of these guys. So maybe one of these guys can emerge in the nickel this spring and allow the staff to say, hey, yeah, we want to try Gilbo over here. I think too, Rod, you can speak more to this than I can just from a schematic standpoint. It does seem like the rigidness of field and boundary is kind of going away from this defense. I think there are some guys that are kind of pigeonholed into one or the other, but I think that could allow you some flexibility at corner too. If you're not just saying, okay, this guy is our field corner, this guy is our boundary corner. Like Gavin Holmes was a guy you knew he was going to play to the field, right? Just because there's some times where he's just going to give up some stuff when they run the ball into the boundary, like and just being physical, like you need your boundary corner to be physical. So, my question, CJ, the short answer would be, what's your answer at nickel, and can somebody emerge there that the drop off is minimal if you want to try Gilbo at corner?
Yeah, to counter that, and Rand had a good comment here. How about Jelani, right? We saw him against Arizona State against a bigger running team later in the season.
Yeah.
We'll see if he's a guy that's quick twitch enough to play against a spread offense, right? You know, when you go play Ohio State, can you rely on Jelani to cover Brandon Ennis in the slot? You know, I think that's a fair question. But, hey, you know, that's why Terry Joseph, PK, and Sark make the big bucks, and we're here to talk about in the spring. But a lot to fine-tune, I think, when it comes to that rotation and personnel groupings along that defense.
Yeah. Rod, do you have thoughts on whether you like I know the big nickel was something that Todd Orlando once upon a time had tinkered with BJ Foster. Do you have a preference? I know PK and Johnny Nansen and Terry Joseph have their presence. Do you have a presence? You want a big nickel, or you want more like the corner type?
You need a corner. You need a guy that can cover. Ideally, now situationally, you play Arizona State, you play a team that wants to pound the rock, you play a Vanderbilt or somebody like that, and you want to have the option for a big nickel. But man, it's tough to cover that slot, guys. I'm telling you, you need a guy that has got really flexible hips, You need somebody there with really good instincts. And I agree. I mean, usually if you can play the nickel position at the University of Texas, it takes an NFL skill set. It takes a Sunday skill set to do it. Usually, I'm not every time, but you're gonna look at the lineage of that position since Rod B played it in 1999. All right, and it's got an NFL hit rate probably somewhere in 60% of the guys who played it ended up getting drafted in the league. I mean, it's a really high hit or end up playing in the league somehow. So I just think you got it. So I'm with you. I think, Gilbo was one of those guys. Once he earned the trust of the coaches, it allowed them a lot of flexibility. They're cross-training all the guys, right? They're cross-training as many guys as they can. Yeah. The players even revealed that. So I'm with you. That should eliminate some of the rigidity. And I said that even after the spring game, that they seem like they're going away from the boundary and the field. It just makes you very predictable, and it makes it easier for offenses to attack you when you got a field and a boundary. It shouldn't matter. I mean, guys can play left and right. And every time they did it against Ohio State too, actually, by the way.
Rod, you realize we're far enough removed from your career now that you could show up at practice wearing the rich white man hat and talk about how back when you played nickel, it was Bo Reese having you go feather the option against Nebraska.
Exactly. That's why I can't relate to him. I was stopping the triple option, dude. They'll think I was like old. You can't even watch Rod B highlights because they're in standard regular definition. They don't even know how. They can't look at these kids' eyes cannot even look at.
It hurts me, Rod.
Exactly. See, they're like, what is that? What is that?
It's not crystal clear. Get it off my screen.
Yeah. See, if y'all look over Rod's shoulder, that's the Nike jersey. That's the nice tight form-fitting one. It's not the Reebok one that was about 3 sizes too big with the big shoulder pads.
Bro, I had so many
toenails. We saw the shoulder pads. What was the video game, Rod?
Oh yeah. Oh my image on the video.
Yeah. Cornerback 21.
It's pixel. You can't even tell it's the face of a human on that thing. It's just like 2 eyeballs. I'll show that I think Matthew actually has it somewhere. I'll have to text it to Matthew the video. I still got a screenshot of myself on the video game. Oh no, I found it. Oh no, it's terrible. Oh, look at that. Look at the graphics, man. Look at that. Look at the stadium. Look at the Jumbotron in the background, if you want to call that a Jumbotron.
The right shoulder's got about 80 hit power, and that left shoulder's got about 65.
Man, I can't brag about that with the youngsters, man. They will laugh me out of the building. All right. Somebody say we the same age. Yeah, you old too. If you my age, just accept that. You old, just like me. All right. Thank you for that, Matthew. Appreciate it. That's why Matthew's the best in the business. How about this one? Super chat from Derek Best says, I'm so pumped for Jeff joining the OTF crew. I always love listening to the Blitz, the best portal pickup. I think we already got to that, actually. I apologize about that if we did. All right, let's get back to some of the questions here. Man, David Tecmo. Yeah, that's what it looks like. How about this one from Connor? This is a good one. Who do y'all see taking over the tight end position next year?
Jordan Washington season.
Does this mean we're going to see less 12 personnel? Because Sark's played, don't you agree, CJ? Seems like, and Jeff, you watch as much film as anybody, and they've increased the amount of 12 personnel usage. Last year and this year, and it makes sense now when you look at JT Sanders and Gunner. You got 2 NFL tight ends. Probably, not a bad idea to play a lot of 12. And Sark says tight end position, second most important position in his offense behind quarterback. But you may only have one tight end you trust next season because you just don't have a lot of experience. This is the first time Sark's going to have this little experience, this few reps, actual snaps in a game at the starting tight end position since he's really been here. I guess you can say JT, but then even when he came in, who do you have in 2021?
Jared Wiley. Another
Wiley. Yeah, you had at least you had some guys that's NFL tight end now. Forget about that. But so this is the most inexperienced you've had at tight end. What are your thoughts about who takes it over and where that leaves the personnel usage of the 2 tight with Sark?
It's interesting. I think you have to go back to the 6-man jumbo offensive line next year. I think if you want to go big, run the football, you have to, right? This year against Arkansas, Juan Davis had 46 snaps. That was the most that we've seen in his entire career, but it was because of that 3 high look, which is still going to be prevalent, especially if Oklahoma goes through with Jim Knowles, right? That's going to be around, right? And How do you combat that? Well, for Sark's entire tenure, it's been let's get bigger, let's get stronger up front, and we'll just run them to death, right? 6 in a cloud of dust is all. If you do that, they're going to get out of it, and then we'll bomb it over the top. But for Texas next year, I'm a Jordan Washington believer. Let me put that out. But I still kind of question whether or not he's going to be the guy to begin the year, just in the sense that, look, they didn't trust Jatavian Sanders to start year one. They didn't really have him on the field year one. He still kind of had to work his way into being that guy in year two. Is Jordan Washington further developed? I think so. I think he's got that inclivity to be a little bit more physical than Jatavian Sanders is. But with that said, that's still a lot to undertake. And we saw that with Gunnar Helm this year, who 4 years in the system finally got his crack and was like, okay, I'm the guy. I know what to do. I know everything. He played as many snaps as anybody on the offense, not named Jake Majors and Hayden Connor. So I think Jordan Washington's your guy, but I really struggle to see who that second guy is going to be, especially with Nick Townsend not arriving till the summer.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a deal where, I think now, especially as you're breaking in new personnel, I think Sark's got to go with the mindset, all right, when you think about your personnel packages, what benefits you more? Is it having 2 tight ends on the field? Let's say it's Jordan Washington and Spencer Shannon's that second tight end. Or, like you said, CJ, can you get it out of that 6-0 line package what you want? Or if you want to be have a little more position flex, Rod, I know you love the pony package. I love the pony package. And if CJ Baxter is back healthy from that knee injury, your options at running back, you've got even with Jaden Blue gone, you've got no shortage of options at running back. So if I'm Sark, I just lean on my position areas of strength. And I think you almost have to think about it kind of how you thought about it in 2022. Remember, like we thought Jatavian Sanders was going to be the option. CJ, you just referenced that. But what was the strength of that offense? Man, it was Bijan and Roschon. So we saw a lot more pony package. We saw a lot more 20 and 21 personnel. I think an X factor on offense, and again, it's tough to put a true freshman in this situation, but there's going to be a lot placed on Michael Terry's shoulders, I think, to figuring out where he fits in. Because I do think, Rod, I feel like I'm talking a lot of scope here. Either it's a narrow scope or a broad scope. I think sometimes with these athletes, especially a jumbo athlete, I think you can get too broad and you end up not using a guy where he can be best. I also think you can narrow the focus too much and pigeonhole him somewhere where he needs to be. So it's going to take a lot of tinkering and a lot of thinking from Sark, especially with a piece like Ryan Niblett, a piece like Michael Terry, kind of figure out how these guys go. And keep in mind, like at the receiver position, you got 2 proven commodities with Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore. Other than that, between the newcomers and the guys left over from last year, you got 6 guys basically that you have really no idea what any of these guys can do at the college level. So that receiver competition. So I don't know, Rod, if you're going to see less 12 personnel. I think you will, just because I don't think that's going to be your best personnel grouping. I can think of several other personnel groupings that could be more effective than 12. But I do like CJ's idea. I think if it is a modified 12 personnel, I think it's that 6-0 line package you'll see more of.
Yeah, no, like you said, we have never seen, Sark's offense with this little experience at the tight end position. It'll be interesting to see what he does. You guys know I love the pony. Been yelling for it for 5 years, so I'd love to see more of that, and I'd love to see more of that 6-0 line package too. Let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge. I'd love to see you get a great deal from South Point Dodge. You can do that. Matter of fact, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. And right now, they have an amazing deal happening with over 50 Ram 2500s, all marked down with huge savings. So head on over to South Point Dodge. You can see their fantastic inventory in person off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can just go online, make it easy on yourself. Maybe you don't want to get out in the frigid cold weathers. You want to wait till the weather gets a little bit better, but you can go to southpointdodge.com and you can look up their inventory there as well, and you can see their fantastic deals there as well. They have everything you need. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. South Point Dodge, Austin's automotive everything. That's southpointdodge.com, and we really appreciate them for sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. CJ, real quick, before we hit a couple of questions, before we get to the end of our live stream, you told me that the coaches were on the move right? Coach has been traveling. Where have the coaches been that the Longhorns out there would like to know?
Yeah, coaches were up in DFW once again, kind of finishing up their trip and tour of Dallas again. And lucky them, they're evading, some of the snow out in Houston. And I know it was 24 degrees whenever I woke up this morning out in Austin. So lucky them. I hope it's a little warmer up in Dallas. But so they made the stop up in Prosper yesterday. They made a trip out to Mansfield Lake Ridge to see Felix Ojo as well. Texas sent a number of coaches out to kind of that Fort Worth area. They stopped at North Crowley, where they extended an offer to 2026 safety Aaron Bradshaw. That was a guy that we had heard Texas would be a little bit interested in. And, of course, having stopped by, they got to see him in person. They extended the offer. Texas was his 8th offer, I believe. And, of course, 5-star offensive tackle John Turntine, who, again, now that they're all state champions, you can kind of say that they've got some notches under their belt there. They also stopped over by South Oak Cliff and Euless Trinity to see Toa Katoa, who's expected on campus this weekend. Texas, of course, expecting upwards of 55, 60 prospects on campus this weekend. Hopefully it's not as cold as last year, but it'll certainly be a smaller bunch than what we saw last year with about 125 kids who came in for the 2024 junior day.
Nice. Yeah, Turntine, he's nice. His film is nice. I got a chance to look at some of his film. He's a very talented player. Getting back to the questions here. This one's from Orange 16872. Orange. How long has Jeff been covering Texas for those who are new to him? Jeff, would you like to answer that? Thank you. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it there. I apologize.
I covered the recruitment of Garrett Gilbert. Does that give you a pretty accurate time frame?
Man.
I started in the Texas market. Summer of 2008 was when I started in the Texas market.
Ooh.
So. CJ,
ooh. Yeah, see, yeah.
You want to know?
Yeah. Long time.
That was 11 then.
That was the.
He likes to twist that knife, man. He loves it.
That's why I sent the little feeler question. Are you sure? Because Rod doesn't like it.
I'll own my age. No, the summer I got married was the summer I started working in the Texas market. So,
good year.
This is how you know, Rod. If I ever forget how many years I've been in the market, I'm in trouble because that means I forget how many years I've been married. So,
damn right, that's a good point. That's a nice way to tie it in. I like that. Yep. That's a good way to do it. All right, let's get to some more questions here. David Keith Williams always has good stuff. David Keith, this is kind of a two-parter here. Says Georgia's physical, dominant, and athletic linebackers did support their D tackles. I hope Coach Kwiatkowski ultimately creates a defense with multiple dominant linebackers like Georgia has. That is the reason why linebackers are so important. Texas basically ran the Michigan D tackles out of plays, and Michigan linebackers could not support them. It's a good point about the line. I will say when you go look at, I'm all about the central nervous system, David Keith Williams. I always bring up the central nervous system of a defense. And that's basically the spine of the defense, your safeties, your off-ball inside linebackers, your D tackles, that you got to have a strong central nervous system of your defense. That's your communication center too. It's usually where your checks are, usually where the green dot is. The green dot's usually somewhere on that central nervous system of the defense. So I think you're right about that with linebacker, and those guys got to be instinctual. So I do think there's an it factor that you really can't develop at linebacker, and that's why they come in so many shapes and sizes. Like linebacker those positions where you don't even really know what ideal shape you're looking at. At corner and receiver, you see it's like, no, they're looking for this, and this. At linebacker, man, the shapes vary. Look at the Texas linebacking core. Sizes all over the place. Bender looks very different from Anthony Hill. LaFowl looks very different from those guys. Anthony Smith looks like a DB out there after downtime. Like they all have these very different body types. Because I think you do have to find a guy that has the instincts to play that linebacker position.
Rod, you remember the year in the Big 12, the year that broke the linebacker position was 2019, because it was the year, your best linebackers in the Big 12, and all these guys I think Malcolm Rodriguez was the only one who wasn't like a top 100 pick, but Malcolm Rodriguez was a high school wrestler and an 8-man quarterback. Terrell Bernard was just an undersized linebacker from Fort. Jordan Brooks was a track guy. Kenneth Murray was a high school safety. And the fact that all these guys, they're all Big 12, they're all Americans, they're high draft picks, that, being, talking to guys that were in charge of recruiting rankings at the time, that really kind of broke the industry. So like, okay, we've been looking at the linebacker position all wrong. And as guys are talking to college coaches, they're like, yeah, we've all been looking at the linebacker position wrong, like figuring out we got the wrong body types. I'll never forget, Rod, and you like this, the Mike Tomlin quote, look like what you hunt.
Yep.
So if it's a space and pace game, you need space and pace linebacker. Sorry, LeVar Kirkland, you can't play football in the year 2025. So but I do feel like, and CJ, I think we saw this with that Anthony Hill, Leonga LaFau class that Jeff Choate put together at Texas. I think the Texas staff by and large has a better feel. Okay, we know what we're looking at linebacker now. And I think because the industry has also figured out what they're looking at, I think you're seeing recruiting rankings line up a little bit more with the takes at linebacker and it translating a little bit better.
Yep. Yeah, and even in that class, right, Samaje Burrell was the other one, right? And you're starting to look around and say, okay, all three of these guys can fly, all three of these guys can cover. And that was one of the things that really stood up to me when seeing Ty Anthony Smith in 7-on-7, got to see him in high school a little bit. Look, he was a safety in 7-on-7. He didn't play linebacker. He didn't want to be in the box. He wanted to get the cover skills. And at the time, he was probably 190, 92 pounds. So, he could move as well at that sense. But the minute that you could pair a guy that's 215 or 220 in high school with what we saw this past year of a Bo Barnes or Riley Pettijohn running sub 11, well, then your linebacker position, especially in the state of Texas, changes entirely. And I look at Oklahoma State was one of the first schools to really start taking their oversized safeties and just saying, go play linebacker. Like, you're not going to like it, but you're going to make a lot more money here because you're just bigger, faster, a little bit quicker than everybody else in the box. If you can buy into that, right? I thought Kendall Daniels was going to be a guy just like that. Turns out he's not a guy that likes contact a whole lot. So good luck at Oklahoma, of course. But, I do think that there's something to it. And clearly you started to see that even more. I forget who the Oklahoma safety is that went to go play basically that undersized linebacker spot for Arizona, but he was one of the first, right? The Cardinals. That name's escaping me. And ever since then, it's kind of been like, how can we get more speed in the box with a guy that's physical enough to make up for being a bit undersized? Well, when you got guys like DeMarvion Overshown who just like to hit anything and 6'3" and can run like that, makes your life a whole lot easier. So it's been the evolution of really what I like to call that 7-on-7, era of Texas football. And it's worked to an extent.
Yeah, no, you're right about this. The proliferation of the spread, you got to find something that lines up with it. That great Tomlin quote you talked about that, Jeff, look like what you hunt. Let's thank our friends over at Duck Camp before we end our live stream. We'll answer one more question, but then we'll end the live stream. But thank you to our friends at Duck Camp. Duck Camp produces premium outdoor goods for the outdoor spirit in each and every one of us. Duck Camp is dedicated to providing the best outdoor goods so you can outdoor good. Whether you're an avid hunter or you're a fisherman or like me, you like to fake it. You just like the Duck Camp gear because it looks so good and it's such high quality material that you're just a fan of it. So I got the Duck Camp hoodies. I got the Duck Camp. I got a couple of Duck Camp hats. Got a couple of Duck Camp shirts. My wife actually is ordering some stuff. They got great stuff there at duckcamp.com. Go check it out for yourself. It's a brand that understands the culture of outdoor living and the good times and good friends that come along with living an outdoor lifestyle. That's duckcamp.com. You can go there and check out all of their new material and all of their new selections. And they have a color really close to burnt orange, like very close. Matter of fact, people think I'm wearing Texas gear every time I wear it. That's how close it is to burnt orange. All right. Thank you very much to duckcamp.com for being a sponsor of our Wednesday night live stream. All right. Let's
hold on real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Tony Jefferson was who I was thinking of.
Undersized
linebacker that safety, and they bumped him in at Arizona with the Cardinals and ended up having about 7 sacks in 4 years there. So
no, it was the Big 12 kind of led the way with those experimental projects at linebacker too, to Jeff's point. And it was just an evolutionary adaptation to the life in the Big 12, the ecosystem of the Big 12. All right, one more here. This one comes from GC Longhorn. Will Moore and Simmons split reps, or will they be on the field at the same time? That's a good question. Who starts on the edges? I remember this question. This is one of those first world discussions and problems because Simmons is starting, period. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So between Ethan Burke, right, and Trey Moore, who's the other edge? Is it Ethan Burke because of a certain type of position that he's going to play, or do you put both of your best pass rushers out there at the same time? Now, I know in NASCAR we'll have them out there, all of them out there. In NASCAR, we're just talking about your start edges. By the way, they'll rotate heavily. We know that. But, so.
I'm just trying to think if are the body types different enough to where opponent specific starting line would matter.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that.
I don't know, CJ. I feel like I don't think it matters at that point.
Yeah, I didn't think at any point, to your point, Jeff, that Moore or Simmons were a liability when run at, and that's kind of one of those big questions that you ask yourself when you have what you would call an undersized or a weak side edge rusher is, can they defend the run, right? That's how to go back to the Cowboys, the Packers a year ago in the playoffs said, hey, Michael Parsons, we're going to run at you 50 times and there's nothing you can do. And they ended up scoring 48 points. So that's maybe a concern, but last year, especially as a younger cat for Colin Simmons, that was never a concern for me. And it was even more of a weapon in my eyes when they started running that read option to the opposite side, because that quickness is unmatched. So I don't think it matters either.
Yeah, it's a good point. I love that tweet you had, CJ, about how Trey Moore became your best pass rusher late in the season. He was unbelievable for those last.
He figured it out.
You did. No question about that. All right. I lied. I said that was the last one. Here's the last one from G-Man 345. The OTF team with the addition of Jeff Howe is like the 2005 team. CJ at QB, Wildcats, Jeff at center, Rod at wide receiver / DB. I'm Travis Hunter with Bobby and Jerry holding the orange bourbon on the sideline. Welcome, Jeff. Thank you, G-Man.
I appreciate that.
Only
G-Man,
time I'm compared to Travis Hunter. There you go.
I'm not smart enough to play center, but I appreciate that.
Nor do I have the arm to play quarterback.
They said you Wildcat it though, so you just out there.
Well, I don't have the legs then.
With the moves, guys. Thank you guys for all the super chats and all the questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. Tried to get to as many of them as we could. But if you do have questions, direct them to the guys at Coffee and Football in the morning. They'll be starting at 8 a.m. We'll also, since tomorrow is Thursday, we'll have the winning drive with CJ Vogel, Coach Bob Shipley, and myself. That'll be around 3:15. So if you have questions for us, you can throw those out there as well. And of course, we're really excited about having Jeff as a part of the team. As a matter of fact, we're so excited. We're offering you a special right now. Use the code HOWE. HOWE, and you'll get a year subscription for just $39.95. And my man Matthew, who's the best in the business, he has informed me that yes, this special will end next Tuesday. So you got until next Tuesday. If you got to talk to wifey about it, whatever you got to do, all right, get it done. All right, that's the best special you go get. We appreciate Jeff for being part of the On Texas Football family. Thank you, Jeff, for all the nuggets of wisdom. Thanks, CJ Manziel. Lisa, Mama Vogel in the chat. We love when mamas and wives join the chat. It's always a beautiful thing. Nice to have Mama Vogel there. CJ, thank you for hooking us up. We appreciate all of your hard work as always. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to duckcamp.com. Thank you to flatcreekestate.com as well. Thank you very much to my friend Brett Robin, Dr. Brett Robin, the orthopedic specialist. Can't forget about him. Thank you to our friends at South Point Dodge at southpointdodge.com. Give it up for Matthew behind the scenes. He's the real MVP, ladies and gentlemen. And until next time, for CJ, for Jeff Howe. Oh, yeah. Jerry is an Aggie. Ban him for Jerry been trolling everybody for the last few days, including his own people. So Jerry deserves those shots. For Jeff and for Matthew and for man CJ. Until next time, hook 'em horns.